I always loved music. I was a soccer player my whole life, and it was like I was playing for some club teams that required a lot of travel. It was more of a dream, and I was never close to being a pro. But I had really good ball control growing up, and I was always proud of that. I just had the idea one day because we're always thinking of band marketing techniques, and I was like, maybe I can do this. And it took a few takes. And then over the years, as I got better at it, I was started just picking things and doing like more complicated riffs, like some Dave Matthews songs. I can use a pick while juggling.
Hmm.
And then I started singing while doing it. Some of the videos did well, and I have so many on my phone. I have a library where I'm like, I don't need to do any really new ones. Because at one point it does get a little gimmicky, and I feel like a jester. I'm like, all right, I want people to discover us or my music, like either way, through it. But it is it is wacky, and I'm proud of it. I haven't seen an upside down guitar player do it, so that's where I can be like, okay, am I the only person who plays upside down guitar that makes these soccer juggle videos? Maybe, but also the world's a big place. Maybe not. So, but I always loved music, and I would sing without knowing what I was doing. And I was really into punk rock and Blink and Green Day. I would write lyrics, but it was that kind of thing. I always wanted to play guitar, but never really. I was a wannabe pop punk guy. Then my brother took me my 13th birthday to see Dave Matthews Band, and I was into some of the songs, but I wasn't a big fan at that time. And then I went and saw DMB Live, which is just like an insane mix of instrumentation and like genre blending, and like it's just the energy created in a Dave Matthews Band concert is unlike anything I've ever experienced. And I
Hmm.
remember thinking like I was just blown away. I don't know if I want to be Dave Matthews, like frontman McGee. Like I don't know if I have the ability to do that, but just to be on stage as one of those guys, or just like to create, like I was just fascinated by it. So that
Hmm.
was what really changed things. I started getting really into Dave Matthews and the acoustic guitar in particular. For me, my heroes, like I idolize Dave Matthews. And what I love about him is he's so friggin' weird. He's the weirdest guy, but you know what? He's not in the celebrity magazines for gossiping about somebody or saying this or doing this. He's just like a guy, and he like I don't know him personally, but the way he carries himself in an interview, it's just like he seems to have the mindset of I got lucky and I have this platform, and you can look at me like a god, but I'm a human being, and we're all gonna die. And not to say this doesn't matter, but I always just liked that very just he just grounded, and at least seems grounded. That was always what I idolized. Is just like the weirdest. So what I mean by that is like my heroes are all really strange. Tom York, they're all just weird guys. That's what. But that's the one common denominator I found between all my favorite artists. So it's either okay, like do I want to idolize normal or boring? Not really, like because it's just all my heroes are not normal. They're all strange.
Did you meet at Rutgers?
Yeah, yeah. So it was very serendipitous because I went to college with the goal of I was like, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I know that I want to start a band. I was randomly on this campus one day to practice with this random person I met for an open mic night, and Brian happened to be going to class early. He was a senior, and he walked by with a Taylor guitar case, the same. I have it behind the. It's a very distinct color. The Taylor guitar cases. It's like
Hmm.
beige, and then he had like Sanuk shoes on, which are these kind of hippie surf shoes that I also had. And then the icing on the cake was like he had a t-shirt for Chadwick Stokes, which is a musician that he's from Dispatch, and his band is pretty big, but he himself is not that big of a name, just in general. And it was one of my favorite albums for the shirt he was wearing. And so it was basically you walk by and I looked at him, and it was this weird moment of like, I can't not call him over because it's like, dude, you're basically me. It's like a really strange thing. A year or two later, after we met up a few times, we found Steve at open mic networking kind of things, and I saw Steve play and sing, and I just thought his voice was so unique and he was so talented. And then we formed in my attic in my college house. I should plug like my bandmate's actually left-handed, Brian, my other guitar player, but he plays righty. So that's a fun fact when people are like, you're lefty, you play guitar lefty. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not lefty. I wouldn't take that as like an adjective to describe me. I only play guitar lefty. Oh, but Brian plays right. It's like, yeah, but he's actually lefty, but he just plays righty. So we're flip-flopped, and it's really weird. So I've always been a righty primarily in everything I do, except for guitar, hockey, and golf. If I were to, you know, play golf more. And so far in life, that's just what it's always been. Righty in everything. Kicking, writing, baseball. If I was going to be an archer, archery, it'd be righty. Pool, billiards, righty. It was always lefty in those three things. And growing up playing hockey, when I played 1 year, it was never
Mm.
really a question. It was just kind of like I need a lefty stick because it's what feels natural. And I never really thought it was like, oh, that's an interesting thing. I play hockey lefty. Okay, because at that point I wasn't holding a golf club nor a guitar, when I was 10 years
Mm.
old. So it wasn't really a choice. Like Brian, when he was learning to play guitar, he had to actively choose to play righty against his like natural, like I want to play left, but he was like, my guitar teacher wants me to play righty. It's just easier, right? To just force myself. So it can become second nature just I guess when you're young enough and he got lessons. But for something like hockey, like it wasn't really a question. It wasn't like, oh, should I do that? It was like, no, I'm the lefty in this. I don't know why. But it was just natural. Like it would feel unnatural to shoot this way, as if like I can't. It's always going to be leaning to my left. I was 12 or 13 when I picked up my sister's guitar. I wasn't, and just to dabble for fun. And it was backwards. It was I would hold it lefty. So it was how I naturally did it from day one. And to this day, it's the only way I do it. So I never think I would flip it over for fun and try it and go, nah, and just flip it back the other way. The argument for guitar is like, and I still stand by it. It's like all the complicated, all the riffage, all the dexterity. I'm righty, so I want to do that in my right hand because I'm righty. So for me, it's like it's a no-brainer, and I want to control the beat with my weaker hand because that would make sense. For me, I don't get why people that are righty play right-handed instrument because they're using their less dominant hand on all the complicated stuff. So for me, the whole thing is backwards, but it's like this bizarro world Twilight Zone where no one agrees with me, and I'm like, okay, am I in some fake simulation and then that someone forgot to check off that? But like, what? Like, it doesn't, to me, genuinely doesn't make sense. But the rest of the world agrees, and I'm the odd man out. So I'm like, okay, when you're righty, your less dominant hand does the harder stuff. Go figure. I don't know. I never really looked at it as like, oh, I'm doing it wrong, but I have to learn the quote unquote right way. For me, it was like, no, this is natural. Like I just went with what was natural. In both my acoustics, I put a pickup in them,
Mm.
and I had them installed up backwards to account like they're. If I were to take a guitar that was already had a pickup in it, the dials would be on the bottom, so it'd be awkward. So when I bought this and I installed the Fishman pickup, I had them put it in backwards. So now when I'm playing, it's not like I reach down to mess with the volume. I just reach up. So the pickup is actually
Oh,
installed
wow.
backwards for me. Yeah. It's awkward when you play an upside down electric, which I still do once in a while. I found this on Craigslist in college. I think my friend sent it to me. It was like, yo, this is strung the way you like. I know that you want to get an electric guitar at some point. Like, all right, this is a decent Mexican Strat, so it's like $300-ish dollars. It comes with a case. It's already set up, so no work has to be done. So I just bought it in college, and I was like, this is $300 is not cheap, but it's an investment, and I'm glad I did it. But it was perfect for me, and I'm not, sometimes I like gear and getting technical and things like that, but a lot of times it just like when life hands you a lemon, you just take it, and it's like, oh, it's already set up, but like I don't need to think about it or like, cool, I'm an electric guitar guy now. Like there you go. My sister had a guitar in the house, an acoustic, and she had this like kind of crappy electric. And I figured, Dave Matthews has a way of playing all on the Watchtower where he just focuses on the low E string. And by ear, I figured out how to play it. I was like, because I kind of messed around one day and it was just 3 frets on one string. And I was like, oh, so I would kind of pretend I was like him. And I kind of knew it was backwards, I think. I think I knew it was backwards. So I would do that here and there. I would have dreams I could play guitar. And then I saw a kid who was younger than me, and when YouTube was still kind of new at that point, and this kid played 41 by Dave Matthews. I was just jealous. And I was like, man, he's so good and he's younger than me. Like, why can't I just do that? Like, I'm sick of like I'm just gonna teach myself. So I picked up her guitar and I just looked up the number system tabs, right? And I was like, oh, I don't need to know anything. Like, I don't know what a chord is, I don't know what notes are, I don't know, but I know these, I can figure out these numbers. These seem intuitive. I think it confused me because the way you read tabs is the low E on the bottom. So it's almost like you're reading it and it's like, oh, this makes sense, it lines up perfectly. So maybe it was a glimpse when I was like, oh yeah, no, I'm doing it the right, like maybe, but I wish I could remember. I don't. And at that point, I'm also pretty shy in some contexts. I didn't want to be like, "Hey, mom and dad, I'm a musician now. Can you buy me a lefty guitar?" Because one, I didn't know if I was going to commit to it and stick with it, and two, it's expensive to ask for a guitar. And then as time went on and I got better and I kept doing it backwards, I did think about getting a lefty or getting the guitar set up to be reversed. But again, I was like, I don't know how serious I am about this. And now it's like I can go to my friend Jacob's house or my friend Jim's house and play their guitars. I do think it was when you're in context of like, oh, Jeff plays guitar. I didn't ever want to be like, oh, I can't, I need my lefty, like I need a specific. And
Hmm.
also then over time it grabs attention. And in this industry, in this world, anything that sets you apart, in marketing, it's USP or a unique selling point. So it's like, what can you latch onto that separates you from, I mean, no one needs another guitar player. It's like there's too many guitar players, you know what I mean? That's always the joke. We need bassists and drummers, not another guitar player. But um, that differentiated me a little bit, so I stuck with it. I've seen anger. I've seen like some like, why are you doing it like that? Like, you're dumb for doing it that way. Like just buy a lefty, flip the strings, like those kind of comments. And 70% of the time or 80%, it's like curiosity and like, why do you do it like that? Like, and then I tell them, oh, it makes sense. And some people think that I like when I would, this doesn't happen that often, but I would play and they thought that I play the normal way, but I'm just doing it upside down as a way to get attention or. I'm like, no, this is the only way I really play. I can play a left-handed guitar if very slowly and if I think about it, but for the most part, my quickness is all with the upside down. Most of the time, people are just support like no one's like saying don't do it that way. Well, I shouldn't say no one. There are some people that do say that, but most people are excited, and that's why I'm always happy to answer the question whether I condense it or elaborate because it's like it's cool. It's nice that people notice, and I'll always say thank you for noticing. Because sometimes
Yeah.
it's not clear. I play the double pick guard. So unless you know what you're looking for with the strings, the low E and the bottom, some people are not going to notice that you're playing backwards.
Have any of those people who've said, expressed in negative or kind of thoughtless reactions to it, has anyone ever said that to you in person, or is that just kind of internet?
No, that's internet stuff. I've never had someone negatively approach me after a show and go, "Why do you do it that way?" That would be just weird. I'd be uncomfortable. I'd be like, I'm sorry. Get away from me.
Yeah.
It's always the comment and the profile picture or the username is sketchy. It's that kind of thing. So,
Yeah. Classic
yeah.
internet comment vibes. Have
Uh,
you ever had any teachers?
my brother lined me up with this guy named Marcus Eaton. He's a really good guitar player, and it was both. It was good and bad. It was because it humbled me, showing me at that time I was 6 years into playing guitar. It was a decade ago, so it was like I thought I was, oh, I know all the stuff I need to know, and he kind of humbled me because he showed me like he's a genius guitar player. Like there's no other way to put it. He's just a genius, and so he showed me how behind I was, not condescendingly, but I really saw. I was like, wow, I don't know what I'm doing. And I remember he even said something like, "Oh, why don't you should just start playing lefty." He kind of had that advice, and I was offended by it because I was like, for me, so deep in 6 years, where I was like, I'm that behind where you want me to start from square one, kind of thing. So I took it the wrong way. Secretly, I didn't show him that. Kind of politely, just like, no, I just think I'm gonna stick to this way, kind of thing. I just
Hmm.
kind of avoided it. That was pretty much my response because I knew that I was like I wasn't gonna go. Oh, I was in a band at that point too. We were recording music. I'm not like, oh, I'm gonna start playing guitar the right way now. Like my style's developed around it. Like I play backwards. But he's so good that it was intimidating. But I will say the positives was he gave me these exercises that opened up the neck for me. Like he showed me just a few triad jumps and like uh little things that really foundationally it made me go, wow, this is why people get lessons. So when people ask me on the internet, like, should I get lessons or teach myself? What I always say, teach yourself with some tabs, but then when you feel like you got a grasp on it, please go get lessons because like there's
Hmm.
people out there that can give you these little shortcuts that will change your guitar career and you'll level up way faster than somebody who's like, I'm not going to get lessons. Also on TikTok, especially a lot of the content that does well, I get a lot of comments about the upside down. Even when I play, like I do a lot of live streams on there, and sometimes I'll answer it condensedly just because I answer the
Hmm.
same thing over and over again. But I'll
Yeah.
never get annoyed because it's like it's the day I start getting annoyed is the day I really need to look at myself introspectively, and be like, really, like, because it's an honor, or it's like people want to know, and like some like in this world of
Hmm.
music, right? You have something unique, so I do get the same questions over and over again. So I've been answering them for years, but yeah, I'll never get sick of answering it. It's one of those things in music where I grasp onto and be like, this sets me apart or sets us apart as a band, right? So just
Hmm.
like take it and run with it. So I can't be like ungrateful. Oh, why is somebody giving me attention, asking me about my like it just seems selfish to answer like, oh my God, yeah, I just do it, whatever. So I always try to like give people like the story. I do condense it a lot because there's a lot of parts to it. So I'd be like, why do you play upside down? It's like, oh, it's a whole thing I taught myself, and that kind of thing. People think that it's more bassy because I tend I think it's just my style though, and also learning punk rock with power chords and also the way Dave palm mutes and a lot of palm mutey sort of style. In my band, Brian fingerpicks the brighter notes. I'm usually the low end. So people think like, oh, because you play backwards, I can hear the difference because it's lower or and I maybe, but I think it might just be the way I chose to play. So I don't know if the it's a controlled experiment there. I don't know if it's because I found the upside down guitar. So like Neon by John Mayer is like a pretty complicated song and it has a specific style of the way he's attacking the strings. And he doesn't use a pick. And when he does tutorials, there's a very specific way of using your thumb as the for the bass. Obviously, I can't do that. Basically, my thumb doesn't hit the low E, so I can't do that style. So what I do is I use a pick, and I have to figure out my own way to play it. And each time, I don't know if I can just do it on this box. I have to learn it each time, but it's like that kind of thing. So I'm using a pick and palm muting. That's just an example of like one song where it's like I cannot play it the way like a lot of songs I can play it the way it's meant to be played and how it sounds, especially with palm muting. Like power chords are very like people say some people notice like power chords are easier upside down. They might they might be easier. I don't know because
Hmm.
I've never played the other way or even bar chords like they might just with the way you just like it might be easier playing upside down. So is there a different sound? For sure when I'm covering songs because the songs are written like Neon, I can't play it that way. The way
Hmm.
that he it was intended. But in general, the sound of the guitar, I don't know. I'd have to play a lefty guitar and bring my style to that and then see. But when strumming too, full chord, people say I can hear the difference. I'm not gonna be like, no, you can't. I'm never gonna do that. I'm usually like, oh, that's interesting, but I'm always like, is it because of that, or is it because I'm only focusing on the lower strings and palm muting, and they think that that's just part of it being upside down? It's a big part of my identity, and I'll always say on my website I have upside down guitarist because I like to say that because people go, what does that mean, or what that and it's a way to start a conversation and also set myself apart a little bit. But if I'm meeting somebody and I talk about playing guitar, it depends how much I want the conversation to go on. And I also don't want to ramble about myself, right? It just feels selfish. So it's like, yeah, I play guitar too, that kind of thing. So it's not always going to be like, but I play backwards. Like I'm not going to do that. I'm usually like, yeah, I play guitar too. And usually that'll stop. And then if we're digging into it, then I'll be like, oh, fun fact, by the way, I play with my low E in the bottom. And then that'll open the door. So as a musician identity, definitely I play it up. My bandmates will joke about it and be like, that's the upside down guitar, that kind of thing. TikTok is very conversational where someone writes a comment, why do you play guitar upside down? And so one of our most viewed videos is me playing guitar upside down, explaining why I do it,
Hmm.
replying to a comment. And it's like a layup because it gets more eyes, people are interested, and it's very conversational. So I just became passionate about like being able to be myself and show my weird brain and creativity without it being this whole daunting thing. I could have a quick thought or something funny and just like post it. I posted, I remember like when I first released like something solo. And I was like, upside down guitar player, like releases. And one of the comments was like, I don't care if he plays upside down or not. That's not what I'm listening for. I'm listening for the song itself. And it made me realize like, oh, duh. Like when it's not a video, when it's just a song, it's a fun fact, but you're not going to use it as a selling point. Like, why should you listen to Jeff over this other acoustic player? Like, oh, he plays upside down. If it's just all like, you don't care. I mean, that's a fun fact, but is it good music? Music is music, it's is it good or it? So I like that comment because it really woke me up, and I was like, oh, I shouldn't weirdly use this as a selling point every single time. Like I play upside. So I do use it carefully. I see him. There's I forget her name. There's some big up and coming band that she plays backwards, and it's just not really mentioned, but I see it, and I'm like, I see it. I want to know more about it. And then obviously there's like there's like Doyle Bramhall, right? He's on stage with Roger Waters, and um, there's Elizabeth Cotton. She's no longer around, but she's so good. Like if you ever look up videos of her from back in the day, she plays backwards, and there's a lot of people. Dick Dale. Dick Dale's the surf guitar guy. I have some friends who do it that I've met. Rory DeLasnow, he lives in my area, and we've played shows together, and he became a friend during COVID because he ran this like kind of interview podcast community building thing. He reached out to us, and I messaged him back because I was like, dude, you play backwards, so do I. We should talk. There's a guy named Bendik Bull. I think he's in Norway. He finger picks insanely well. So he plays instrumental guitar, but like, and does it backwards, but he's like very gifted and plays like classical pieces and all these like really, really complex things. And I've met him. So he's another one. There's a guy named Remy. He's the man. He came over for a tour, and I was his lead guitarist for a little tour around like Jersey for a few shows I did in New York. And it was so funny because I found him because we were in a Dave Matthews fan group. So you got the first niche of like backwards guitar. Then you got the second niche of the type of backwards guitar. So he has the same Martin as me. So I was like, all right. And then the third niche of like Dave Matthews Band songs, right? So it's like I found this guy who's in Israel, and I just connected with him being like, I think I'm the American version of you, or you're the Israeli version of me. Like we should know each other. And then we became friends. But it's funny because when I jam with anyone who plays backwards, I am put in the perspective of all of my friends who grew up and having to deal with me. Because I'm used to when I read other guitarists, I'm reading just normal guitar, like how they play. And that's how I see chords. While I play inverted, I see the other way. And then when I encounter an upside down guitar player, I'm like, oh my God, this is so annoying. Like I'm trying to like read what they're doing, and I just can't, even though I can because I do it. So I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Low E in the bottom. That's how I do it. But reading it, it's honestly kind of interesting that I read the guitar, what they're gonna do, what chords they're gonna go to, right, the correct way. When you're trying to show someone how to play, or I'm like, oh yeah, just do this, doodle doodle do, and they're like, I don't know what you're doing. But my friends have gotten really used to, just jamming over the years. Now they know, okay, I know I can read Jeff's fingers. I know what he's doing. But it took them a while. There's a couple other people that'll message my videos. Dude, I play the same way as you. A lot of people will harmlessly be like, oh, like Jimi Hendrix, like, which is inaccurate. A lot of people like to do this Hendrix comparison. And most of the time I'm just like, even if it's in person, I just don't want to, it's just energy that I don't want to use to explain that it's like, because you never want to be the person that's like, actually, like, get a compliment, right? And then go, actually, and then like one up them and pick up. So, but once in a while, I will make a video that explains like, I appreciate the compliment and the comparison, but this is actually inaccurate. Like when Hendrix was first starting, I think someone told me like Paul McCartney, they started backwards, but then flipped it. Hendrix, he played a backward, like his is annoyingly confusing, right? Because the guitar neck was upside down, as you know. So it just looked funky, but he was doing it the right way. Like he was playing lefty with the strings flipped. And it's kind of a mouthful. And if you don't play guitar, you kind of lose people. And they're like, so, what? It's an interesting world. So basically it's like, oh, like Hendrix. And 9 out of 10 times I'm like, sure, yes. Like but then there's that one time where I'm like, actually, no, it's not like Hendrix. And here's why. Yeah. So first of all, is it a word? Idio.
I made it up. It's I hope it's gonna be a word, but no, it's not an existing word. I just made it up.
Well, you got the SCM, search engine marketing. You're well ahead. You own it on Google, so keep it up.
Great.
That's all. I love it first of all because you have. I mean, you have. This is no joke. I'm on the website and you got it all defined. I like it. I would I describe it as a word, like if I were Webster, like I'd be like accept stamp. Like I would be like, yeah, that makes sense. But is there enough? I guess the question would be, is there enough of us to make the word, which it seems to be, right? There's enough big players that have been on stage in stadiums doing it. So it's
Hmm.
enough of a thing worldwide. I'm sure there's so many people that do it that aren't on the internet. Or like my grandfather used to do that, I would use it and contact Webster and say, hey, this is enough of a thing to make it into that'd be a pretty cool. I don't know if you'd win do you win something for that? Do you get like a plaque?
Oh wow.
I say upside down guitar or I say backwards guitar. I say either one of the two. And
Hmm.
upside down guitar it causes confusion and upside down of like, so backwards. I know Rory says upside down and backwards, which I don't know if that's accurate, but now that I'm thinking about it, it kind of is because it is backwards, but it's also flipped to make it backwards. The upside down is causation going on. So I usually do hashtag upside down guitar because I'm not lefty, and I don't want that to be like, oh, he's just lefty. It's like, no, I'm actually. That's the fun fact. It's like I'm actually not lefty. I'm only lefty, quote unquote, with guitar. And also, it's inaccurate because it's like I don't play a lefty guitar. I hold a guitar as if I was left-handed. I love it from a playing standpoint because it's therapy and it's expression in a place my instrument can channel weirdness into something that people can appreciate. Like, from a listening standpoint, it's just like it's also and it's therapeutic and like I don't know. It's just something I've always been passionate about even before I was a musician. It's just very cool. And it's kind of weird if you think about it because you go to like when you go to a concert and you watch people, they're just standing there like this. They're not just standing, they're moving, but they're in if you really think about it, it's humans standing like this with something that they made, looking at you for hours. And for some reason, the sound they make, you're like, for some reason, it just creates this energy that's like unexplainable or maybe explainable. It's just fascinating, and I think it's the greatest. I think it's the greatest thing in the world. And people have said, music brings people together and unifies. It's like that thing where everyone can agree on it. Like it's like I don't know, you're sitting at a party, we have nothing in common, this group of people, but you're like, you guys know the Phil Collins song, You'll Be in My Heart. How much of a banger was that? Remember Tarzan? And you'd be like, oh my, you know what I mean? It's just like, yeah, that song was insane. Like I could hear it to this day. It's so nostalgic and like Phil Collins is a genius, that kind of thing. So it's just this weird thing that we all like. That's a good way to put it.